exSilverParasol Upload 1. That's the title of the video that starts this strange mystery of Five Nights at Freddy's on a little-known channel we found during our research for our video about the FNAF betas that should never have existed. And rather than explain it to you, I think the best introduction to this mystery is what the video itself shows us. We see a very low-quality gameplay recording, with a scene that doesn't appear in the final game. The player is next to a grand piano, a flashlight or lantern, and in front of a table. And while Chopin's Nocturne Opus 9, number 2 is playing, we see that on the table there's a knife, a spoon, a fork, and a pot full of what looks like meat. And on the left side is Freddy, but he doesn't look like he does in the game. He seems to be stained and almost putrid, so we already start to suspect what those stains are. Gabriela continues, saying that she expressed her concerns to the company. We are shown a chat between Gabriela Welsh and her boss, Dale Simmons. Gabriela expresses concern, saying that the model of Freddy used in the game is completely inappropriate, to which Dale responds that it's an accurate recreation and he doesn't know what she's talking about. Gabriela sends a screenshot of the decayed Freddy we saw earlier, and then an image of the normal Freddy, comparing them. Dale then asks what the first image is. It turns out that Dale says he has no idea where this 3D model of Freddy came from, and Gabriela replies, "If you say so," not completely believing him. Because of this, she decides to investigate and returns to the studio offices. When checking the game's internal files, specifically the materials for the 3D model of Freddy, she finds a new material with the rotten appearance we already saw, a material called Joseph's Skin or Joseph's Texture in Spanish. Click the link in the description so you don't miss this offer. To better understand what's happening in this video and what will happen in the next ones, we need a bit of context, which we can easily find in the channel description. Account created to discuss the poor management of the Seattle-based studio exSilverParasol, who were responsible for developing the Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted project before it was taken over by its current owner, Steel Wool Studios. This company killed my friend. They did this to themselves. Of course, that's why the channel is called exSilverParasol, since Gabriela is a former employee of this fictional studio. And yes, fictional, because as far as we know, exSilverParasol first appeared within the story of Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, a pretty strange video game, even by FNAF standards. This is because it's a virtual Five Nights at Freddy's experience within its own universe created by the company Fazbear Entertainment in an attempt to repair the reputational damage caused by several incidents and disasters from the past, brought to light by a series of controversial independent horror video games based on these incidents. This means that all previous Five Nights at Freddy's installments are games within its own universe, games that Fazbear Entertainment claims are fake. And if that wasn't complicated enough, in addition to the mini-games that parody the original games, Help Wanted gives us glimpses of very strange incidents during the game's development before it was finished by SeaWorld Studios. Incidents collected and hidden in the form of cassettes around the game by an employee of the original development studio, exSilverParasol. In case you haven't played Help Wanted or need a refresher, the cassettes were hidden by the employee in the hope that a beta tester from the next company hired to continue the project would find them, and they reveal several disturbing things. It turns out there's an anomaly in the game, a piece of malicious code that they didn't understand at first, and that is later revealed to be Glitchtrap, an entity trapped in the game, which started to appear after exSilverParasol loaded code from old materials and circuit boards provided by Fazbear Entertainment under the pretext of cutting costs and reusing code apparently taken from a mysterious old animatronic. The first to notice this anomaly was Jeremy, a beta tester at exSilverParasol who started complaining about nightmares and strange things in the game to his boss, Dale, who didn't pay much attention and told him to keep working. Jeremy was getting worse and worse, talking to himself and barely sleeping, and one morning he is found by the school supply employee, apparently having hurt himself with the paper cutter and still with the virtual reality device on his face. The incident leads Fazbear Entertainment to look for another development studio and shut down exSilverParasol, hoping to cover everything up. Dale is the same boss we see in the conversation uploaded by Gabriela, and Jeremy is mentioned by Dale at the top of that same conversation when he says, "Jeremy hasn't come to work yet, and I really don't know why." That's why the description mentions that the company killed her friend. Jeremy didn't survive the incident, and Gabriela believes it's all exSilverParasol's fault due to their irresponsibility. exSilverParasol, his life too. Reviewing the model, it turns out that Freddy's decayed appearance was hidden in plain sight, mapped to LOD1. LOD load, or level of detail, refers to the gradual decrease in geometric complexity of a 3D model to optimize a video game's performance, showing models with less detail when the object is far away and with more detail when it's close, which means that this Freddy model was simply mapped over the original but invisible under normal gameplay circumstances. Gabriela continues with her work, testing the game. She records, and although the audio wasn't recorded well and she had to subtitle with what she remembers hearing, this was recorded. According to Gabriela, this is Heather, and the model is also an LOD, like with Joseph, with a gigantic hole where her face used to be. This is one of the most interesting sections of all this, especially because the names Joseph and Heather don't mean anything within the story of FNAF. I mean, there are voice actors with those names who have worked in the franchise before, and actually Joseph Afton is the name of one of William Afton's children and the soul of Golden Freddy in the FNAF fan project VHS. I even found an official planned version of a website for exSilverParasol games from a few years ago, where we can see the names of all the employees, including Gabriela, but there's no Joseph or Heather. There really isn't a solid connection that explains who these two names belong to, which is quite concerning because it seems more and more obvious that what we're seeing are memories, echoes of the incidents, or even the souls of the victims. exSilverParasol Upload 3. Gabriela apologizes for the delay in uploading updates since several things have happened. First, she shows us that she decided to record all her discoveries in audio files hidden throughout the game, with the recordings hidden in places where a tester from the next company hired by Fazbear to continue the game's development can find them. Hoping to put an end to this in the future, this directly reveals two things to us. Gabriela is the employee who recorded all the help wanted tapes, and this story seems to be different from the one we already know, although we'll talk more about that in a moment. Gabriela explains that at that time they were working on a level that was going to be the Funtime Auditorium from sister location, so she decided to explore the map from FNAF 1 using the flash beacon mechanic developed for the Funtime Auditorium, with the goal of finding Joseph or Heather. She falls into an apparently endless section with all the elements and decorations from the pizzeria's dining area. She explores it for a long time, using the light from a lantern she found on the ground, the same lantern from her encounter with Joseph. Eventually, she sees the grand piano in the distance, the same one from her encounter with Joseph, but when she touches it, the game crashes. When checking the game files, Bonnie also turns out to be another LOD, and she has a strange name, Beacon. The video ends with a question from Gabriela. Did this creature create itself on the fly to stalk me? beacon is very strange. It doesn't seem to have any kind of biological trace in it, and its model just looks like a burned, lifeless animatronic. Unlike Joseph and Heather, who seem to be something else, something biological, and even look almost rotten. But what I find strangest of all is that, unlike the others, Beacon Bunny is real. Beacon Bunny appears in FNAF Help Wanted. Beacon Bunny can be found in the 4th level of Dark Rooms, the Funtime Foxy level, which is a recreation of the Funtime Auditorium from Sister Location, where you have to use the flash beacon and carefully navigate to get through the level without dying from a jump scare. If by some miracle Endo-01 spawns, which is a very rare event, and on top of that you're unlucky enough to be attacked by this Endo-01, the jump scare you'll get is Beacon Bunnies. It's a completely glitched version of Bunny whose texture is bugged and displays incorrectly, and it only appears because Endo-01 doesn't have a jump scare file in the game, which for some reason causes this glitched Bunny to appear. And that's all we can say about it, being one of the strangest and least known secrets in this game. Some people theorize that it's a consequence of Glitchtrap damaging the game more and more. But what Gabriela's video seems to indicate is that it's something else, like the game itself defending itself. But if we think about it, a glitched entity in the shape of a rabbit watching your movements with curiosity from the shadows really reminds me of the other disturbing rabbit from Help Wanted. exSilverParasol, small update 1. Gabriela says she has a rather strange theory about the matter, but she fully believes that it all started because of a certain exchange they had with Fazbear Entertainment. What happened is that, at the beginning of development, Fazbear Entertainment gave them some show tapes or old tapes from an old Fazbear's location in Utah. The instruction was to convert them using a program provided by them called Reel2Reel2Reel.x. What they usually got was a completely unusable file, but Fazbear provided something else, a plugin. This Unreal Engine plugin allowed them to receive usable files, models, and blueprints from the converted files, and Gabriela thinks that this is what has been bringing these strange creatures into the game, but she also thinks there must be something more, and that's when she finds this. A text message hidden among the game files. "It'll be alright, Joseph." And that's where it all ends. We haven't had any updates for almost a year, so we have to move forward with our analysis based on what we've already seen. Going back to the first and second videos, and now knowing that they are about the souls of 2 victims of the purple guy, we can revisit the encounters with Joseph and Heather and notice some other things. For example, seeing that in the first video, there's a pot full of meat with utensils, and in the second, Heather's face doesn't have eyes or a nose. It seems very obvious that the implication is that the purple guy not only killed them, but did something much more aberrant afterward. We can also glimpse a deeper story that hasn't been told to us yet, with the grand piano clearly related to Joseph and the painting that Heather remembers from when she was alive. We know absolutely nothing about this, but they seem to be elements from their past that we still haven't understood. But at least I do have an idea, a rather curious one, about who Joseph and Heather are, 2 of the anonymous victims from the Save Them minigame. Save Them is one of the oldest mysteries in the saga, being a minigame from FNAF 2, in which we see Withered Freddy's failed attempt to save children murdered in a second incident. These children remain anonymous to this day, and the most accepted theory is that they ended up possessing the toy animatronics from FNAF 2, although this is not clear at all and it's just one among several theories. All of this is still speculation, but it's pretty obvious that they are unknown victims of a second incident, and they could easily include Joseph and Heather. Although I would like to add that it's interesting that in Gabriela's videos, show tapes are mentioned, and knowing that the toy animatronics were the ones equipped with cameras and facial recognition systems, it seems to indicate that the information received comes from these animatronics. Of course, we can't rule out that this is a completely different continuity. After all, there are some inconsistencies with what we see on the channel. And what about the story presented in Help Wanted? Like the little detail that, in Upload 3, Gabriela mentions that they're working with Scott and it seems he liked what they did with the game. While in the Help Wanted tapes, she mentions, horrified, that the indie game developer was working behind the scenes with Fazbear and that those games had been part of a complicated plan to cover up the murders and discredit them. So we can't rule out that Joseph and Heather are, in fact, the names of the victims of the first incident in this continuity. But everything will have to be resolved once exSilverParasol returns to his investigation. So other questions like who is Beacon Bonnie, what the hell is Scott doing working with SilverParasol, and who the heck was leaving messages for Joseph? In the game code, they'll have to be answered in a future video. So, until Gabriela returns, I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you did, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.